an incredible group of people here. Sometimes we don't even know who we're sitting next to. And when I learned who our guest speaker was, I knew that we had to share her with everyone here. And so we have a wonderful treat today of someone who sits among us and is, just a regular person on Sunday, who has written an incredible book, has spoken at well over 100 different venues around the country, is nationally known. And I read the book. It's a great book. She's going to have a book signing between the celebration and the workshop today. And because we just all shine our lights so brightly, I'm delighted that we get to share today with Karon Korp. Help me welcome Karon.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Let me just set this down and bring this stand over. Been doing a little clearing the last couple of weeks. I don't know about you all. I am so grateful to Barbara, to Christy, to John, to all of you for the vibration of love and truth that exists in this place, that is held in the highest integrity. It can be felt. And I'm so grateful for this present moment, to have this opportunity to speak with you today. I received a morning blessing on Friday from the Reverend Angela Paragoff. She's a Science of Mind minister at Virginia Beach, and I thought it very appropriate for what we were going to talk about. So she writes, "Life is not what you see, but what you've projected. It's not what you've felt, but what you've decided. It's not what you've experienced, but how you've remembered it. It's not what you've forged, but what you've allowed. It's not who's appeared, but who you've summoned. And it's not where you've been, but it's where you're going. And this should serve you well, beloved, until you find what you already have." Wow. Yeah, I know. And I'll be happy to share that with anyone if you want to email it to me, because I just thought that it was so incredibly profound, and it really touched me very deeply. So as you know, I have a book. It's called Remembering Our Spiritual Journey Home, the 12 Keys for Awakening the Memory of Who You Are and Why You're Here. So I am passionate about sharing this gift that I was given from Spirit. As Barbara said, I've literally done over 100 events in 42 cities across the country. And it was an amazing gift of wisdom that has changed my life. And of course, we'll have the opportunity this afternoon. Diving deep seems to be a common concept, because we're going to dive deeper into the 12 keys and unlocking the codes to our higher being. So I look forward to being with you in doing that. When you open the first page of the book, the first thing that you see is a reading from the book of Matthew. Matthew 16 says, "I will give unto thee the keys of the kingdom of heaven." The first key is, you will remember. Breathe that in for a moment, what that feels like. You will remember. I remember as a small child looking at the world, and I didn't understand why things were the way they were. I would look around at the news and the magazines and watch what was going on, and I just didn't understand why there was so much suffering. And the opposite end of the spectrum was so much wealth. I didn't understand how that happened. I didn't understand why God didn't do something about all of the people who were suffering. And perhaps you remember feeling this way or experienced that yourself. So I decided to set myself upon a path of study to find the answers. And you might have done this as well. I went to every church I could possibly visit: Methodist, Lutheran, Baptist, Christian Scientist, Catholic, non-denominational. Every place I could go, I went, trying to find the answers. But my questions remained, and they stayed unanswered. Quick show of hands. How many of you have ever built a house? How many of you? Okay, fair. Okay, excellent. Well, my husband, Russ, and I have built 2 in the last 7 years. So those of you who just raised your hands, you know how involved the process is. You begin with ideas and plans and drawings and then blueprints. And from those plans and drawings and blueprints, we bring into manifestation our ideas and our desires. On a spiritual level, consider that we're all doing the same thing, that we are bringing our desires and vision, that we draw out plans for the lessons we're going to work on and experience in this lifetime. That's what the whole concept of our having a spiritual blueprint is all about. It's what we've come to work on in this lifetime. Now, we have a friend, and I was trying to explain this idea to him. He's a psychologist, has a very interesting view of the world. And so I was, okay, you understand that. So I was talking with him, right, and I was really spending a lot of time on it. And I could see the wheels, the little hamsters running around in his head. And all of a sudden, I could just see realization washing across his face, and his eyes got big. And he said, "Oh, Karen, I get it, I understand. Thank you so much. My parents conceived me at the beach. All my life I've been a crab, and now I know why." I swear, verbatim. And I said, that's a great story, and I'm going to use that, but that's not really what I'm talking about. Our spiritual blueprint is the plan for our awakening, and it's unique for each one of us. Before you were born, before any of us came into physical form, we crafted this spiritual blueprint for ourselves. It was created by you, for you, so that you could experience the greatest possible spiritual growth in this lifetime. Now, just like a set of house plans, things change. You make some rooms smaller, you make some rooms bigger, put the garage on the other side, put the deck on the back, doesn't look how you thought it was going to look. But let us all agree that we are the designers and we are the architects. The second key is take responsibility for your life. And it brings us the awareness that everything that's created in our unfolding is meant to bring us home. It was created by us, for us, so that we could evolve. Now, there was a time in my life when my life wasn't working so well. And it was a pretty challenging time. My experience was not a reflection of my heart's desire. And even though I knew that I could change my creation, nothing I was doing was working, and it wasn't changing. And I was really frustrated by that experience. I mean, there were times, and maybe you've been there too, I would meditate so long that my butt would get numb, and then I would chant so long, chant and chant and chant, I thought I'd turn blue and pass out. I prayed every day. I said my affirmations every day. I was a vegetarian for 7 years. Nothing was working. I couldn't change the creation. And even though I knew I was a divine creator, it wasn't changing. Even though I knew I had divine intelligence within me, honestly, I felt dumber than a 2x4. Now, one day, all of that changed. And I want you to open your heart so that you can feel this. I was lying awake in the middle of the night. I was very troubled by my situation in my life and what was happening. And all of a sudden, a booming male voice came into my room and spoke to me and said, "There are 12 keys for you to know." And I sat up and I listened for more because I was certain that there had to be more. And I yelled, "Wait, don't go. You can't leave without telling me what the 12 keys are." Silence. So I got up and I looked and looked and looked. You know, at that point I had a very extensive metaphysical library. I'm sure you can appreciate that. A lot of good that did me at that point. And I couldn't find any mention of the 12 keys. I went to South America, to Peru, to Machu Picchu, and Bolivia. And those who have been there, you'll understand I left most of my ego down south. And I came back empty and open and ready to receive. One day in meditation, I received the keys, one at a time. And they moved through me. In the book, I call them encoded thought forms. Dr. Robert Gilbert, who was with us for the Global Heart, I think 2 months ago, he called them packed thought forms. Energetically, they moved through me one by one. I could feel them. So I got up to write them down without breaking the flow of the information that I was receiving in this energetic connection that I was having. And when I was done, there were 12. Now, this is not the first time that I had been spoken to in this way. When I was a senior in high school, my spiritual opening began and my awakening began. I read everything I could get my hands on. The Seth material and all the books by Jane Roberts became my Bible in high school. I read and studied and meditated, and I started opening. A disincarnate entity became active in my mother's home. She was friendly. She would sit on my bed, put her arm around me. She'd swing hanging plants when I walked into the room. She'd change the radio station when I was listening to it. I was scared, really, really scared. I would sleep with my lights on at night because I started having outrageous spiritual experiences. I would become immobile and I couldn't move, and I would hear the sound of drums in my head and waves crashing, and this light would come spilling up my spine over the top of my head, and I'd feel like I was being lifted off of the bed. I was so frightened, I was convinced that the devil had come to take me, because that's what the churches had taught me at that time. So I was praying. I just pulled myself out of another one of these experiences, and I was praying and praying to God for help. And that was the first time that I heard the voice. From every room, every corner of the room, he said, trust, trust. That frightened the heck out of me. So I prayed even more fervently, and the voice spoke again, filled the room, and said, trust. So 17 years later, move the clock forward, the voice comes back and says, there are 12 keys for you to know. And let me share them with you. I do know them by heart, but don't want to miss one. The first key is, you will remember. The second key, take responsibility for your life. The third key, I am a teacher, you are a teacher. We are all mirrors for one another. The fourth key, there is no such thing as guilt, shame, or blame. It's all a lack of love. The fifth key, the answers lie within. The sixth key, you are a diamond, unique in all the world. The seventh key, one word, believe. The eighth key, your life path is not an accident. The ninth key, 2 parts. You are a divine creator, and the second part, heal your body and the rest will follow. The 10th key, learn to be in silence. The 11th key, follow your own truths. And finally, the 12th key, nothing exists outside of yourself that does not already exist within you. And of course, that brings you the understanding and awareness that everything outside of us has been created from within us. So working with the keys, doing research for the book, they broadened my vision, expanded my awareness of not only my spiritual blueprint at work in my life, but in those around me. And this powerful process of creation that we are involved with, whether consciously or unconsciously, I began to see the nature of our divine design. And we are consistently reminded here at the center of the truth that we are powerful, creative, spiritual beings alive and well on planet Earth. But depending on what's happening in your life, that can be a little hard to integrate sometimes. Now, we can pretty much figure out what we've created, because if you're like me, the wreckage can be, strewn for all to see. Okay, you know what I'm talking about. We can figure out the what. We can even figure out the why. Sometimes we're human. We do really stupid things. But the how, I couldn't figure out how. How did I keep creating the same challenges over and over and over? That's what was so frustrating. The fifth key, the answers lie within. Einstein's equation, E equals mc squared, energy, mass, and light. Now, this is not like the secret formula for Coca-Cola that's locked up in a vault in Atlanta. Everybody knows this equation. It is what physicists call the law of all creation. And we're going to get deeper into this afternoon. When we understand the relationship of energy, mass, and light, in our own bodies on a higher level, then we begin to understand how we are powerful creators. Take a deep breath. We are powerful creators, and everything in our life is meant to bring us home. Everything in our life is meant to bring us the memory of who we are and why we are here. So we have this powerful creative ability. We have this spiritual blueprint at work in our lives that we as the architects created so we could get it, so we could remember, so we could live fully in our authentic selves. Last year, I can assure you, I never thought that I would have created for myself a diagnosis of breast cancer and go through a mastectomy, 2 surgeries, have a tube sticking out my side for 5 weeks, undergo chemotherapy, and then spend 6 months looking at a bald monk in the mirror. I wouldn't have thought that I would have created that for myself, but I can tell you the gift that I received from the experience. It brought me grace, unimaginable grace. And I stand here today to tell you that we are very powerful creators, and our design is divine. Let me share with you one of my favorite and perhaps the most beautiful reading from the book of Proverbs. The Lord created me at the beginning of his work, the first of his acts long ago. Ages ago I was set up at the first, before the beginning of the earth. When there were no depths, I was brought forth. When there were no springs abounding with water, before the mountains had been shaped, before the hills, I was brought forth. When he had not yet made earth and fields or the world's first bits of soil. When he established the heavens, I was there. When he drew a circle on the face of the deep, when he made firm the skies above, when he established the fountains of the deep, when he assigned to the sea its limit, so that the waters might not transgress his command. When he marked out the foundations of the earth, then I was beside him, like a master worker, and I was daily his delight, rejoicing before him always, rejoicing in his inhabited world, and delighting in the human race. Wow. From the very beginning, we were all there. Did you know, and I'm sure you've heard this before, but I'll let you know again, that virtually all of the atoms in our bodies that are heavier than hydrogen, they expired and came from distant stars that lived and died before the sun and earth even came into being. It's 5 billion years old. It's amazing. Did you know that your body's DNA communicates through crystals? Did you know that you radiate photon particles every day through the atomic processes of the body? I mean, Barbara tells us all the time we are made of God's stuff. But how deeply do we connect with that awareness? All things come from Source. So all things return to Source. All things are Source. And in the book, I call Source sacred, omnipresent, universal, radiant, compassionate energy. Source. Came up with that myself. Thank you very much. Source. We have a divine plan unfolding in our lives, and we have soul contracts and divine agreements and our spiritual blueprint constantly in the work, and it's constantly evolving, just as we are. We are always at the point of creation, and we know this. And there are days where, I call them days of extreme humanness, but we are always at the point of creation. You know what I'm talking about. All right, just imagine if we make a different choice, you know what happens? We have a different experience. And if we have a different experience, we take a different path. We are always at the point of creation. And yes, I'm passionate about this teaching, and I'm passionate about the keys. I'm passionate about the science of mind, because it places the power where it belongs, and that's within each of us. We are powerful, divine creators, and it's time that we take our place in that knowing, in that knowledge. I am passionate about making a difference in the lives of others. Now, we've all been touched by the images and the photographs and the things that we've seen from the recent storm. And we all know people whose lives are being stripped so that the truth can be revealed. I happen to know this profoundly in my own life. It reminds me of a story, and you've probably heard it, but I'm going to tell it to you anyway, kind of like John likes to do. So, there was this storm, and the next morning, on the beach, we're washed up. There were hundreds, maybe even thousands of starfish all along the beach. And there was an older gentleman, he was walking his dog, and as he looked up, he saw a young girl, and she was running along the ocean at the water, picking up a starfish and tossing it into the ocean. She'd take another couple of steps, she'd pick up a starfish and she'd throw it out into the ocean. Well, he watched her for a few minutes. He's like, well, this girl's crazy. I mean, look, this beach is littered. There are hundreds, there are thousands of starfish. Well, she can't possibly make a dent. So finally, he just had to go up and speak to her and said, excuse me, miss, I've been watching and I don't get it. I mean, look at this beach. There are hundreds, thousands of starfish up here. You can't possibly make a difference. The young girl bent down, picked up a starfish, threw it into the water, and said, I guess I just made a difference to that one, didn't I? Love that story. And I want you to know that this afternoon is about you and for you. We're going to be moving deeper into the 12 keys. We're going to be releasing limiting beliefs, removing obstacles. We're going to be connecting through all dimensions with our I am presence, past, present, future, and aligning with sacred sites and the vibrational encodements around the world. And I have a gift at the end of our workshop today to send you on the way to help you remember that you do make a difference. Let me share with you a note that I received from a woman who attended one of my book signings. And she writes, Karon, there's an anniversary of a magical day coming up for you. She was speaking about my wedding anniversary with my beloved husband, Russ. September 11th. What an irony, considering it's also the anniversary of the terrorist attack in New York City. I don't know, Karon, perhaps both are a testament of the differences between light and dark, life and death, love and fear. Wherever you are on September 11th, remember this. You have touched my life, my soul, and I thank you. That was the one starfish I found that day to throw back into the ocean of spirit. We are powerful. We do make a difference. We can change the world. So I invite you, sometime today, find your own starfish to throw back into the ocean of spirit. I look forward to going deeper with all of you this afternoon into the keys. And I want you to know I love you dearly. Thank you.